Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. We're also sponsored by Architect, the premier site for hosting your decks on the internet. I love them and they love me, and it seems like a good reason for you to use them. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivamB. And now, on with the show. Hello, and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect, Quiver, and my patrons at patreon.com/ShivamB. I'm joined today by somebody that was recommended to be by one of my other previous guests, a dear friend of the show, Bugs Maytrix. She was like, hey, you should talk to my podcast partner, the Other Tracy. And I was like, I need to put out a show every single week, and if you have interesting people you want me to talk to, that sounds great to me.
I appreciate the recommendation. Bugs is we are creative partners in the show we do together, and I have come to really appreciate her presence in my life.
Bugs is insane. Like,
in the best way possible. Yeah.
Like, I had no conception of who she was, except she commented on my stuff every now and again. Then we talked, and then I actually looked into her, and then I was like, oh, you were a thing, actually. And
yeah,
like,
just a force of social nature. It's impressive.
Yeah, but Bugs was like, hey, my partner, could you guys run a show together called the Exhibitionists?
Yes.
Which is all about scrubbed here bracket 1 decks, as I recall.
That's right.
And anybody who has spent more than 10 seconds with me knows that is the world I love to live in. So I was like, okay, you know what? That is 2 recommendations, good enough for me. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited to be on here. We were talking before we started recording, and we have like a lot of intersectional interests and things, and a lot of weird shared history because we've both been kind of around similar nerd spaces for a long time. Yeah. In various capacities. So yeah. Yeah.
Cause I think you're probably in the similar age range as I am. Cause we were talking, it's like the fact that you know some of my dearest friends from my D&D and tabletop days is a little wild to me. My beloved pal Cam Banks, who's one of the great RPG designers of our era, undersung, honestly. He's just an absolute genius of design. And people don't give him nearly enough credit for the amount of work he's done, not only in like my personal passion of Dragonlance, but like in Fate, in like all of the
Cortex.
other
Cortex. The Cortex system alone, all the stuff that Margaret Weis Productions did over the years. He was instrumental in all of that. Yeah.
I've worked with Cam. I should really have him on the show. I've worked with him for decades. He's both been an editor of mine. He's been a confidant of mine. He's the reason I became Dragonlance canon priest, whatever. The point is, though, the fact that you knew who he was, and of course our other mutual friends Clark and Amanda Valentine, who were also just forced to be reckoned with in RPGs, that's sick. That's super sick.
It rules. Being able to come up in indie RPGs and make friends with that sort of not just caliber of designer and like game design mind, but just like genuinely good people.
Just good people.
Man, I fell into the best crowd that I possibly could have. Fate was like my system of choice for quite a while. So Fate I did a lot of game. So good. Yeah, I did a lot of game design. I worked with Evil Hat for a little while on a few different projects. Yeah, Fate lives near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I think the thing about Fate for me is that I absolutely love the character generation in Fate. Fate and Fudge, the nature of like how you're kind of asking questions and developing yourself with the DM kind of like one-on-one in terms of like, who are you? What do you want? Like, how do you like, it's so cool. And like the system itself is so dynamic and interesting for storytelling purposes. And like, I'm sorry guys, like I promise we'll talk about Magic, but like indie RPGs and tabletop are my like home base. And I have spent a lot of, like, honestly, the reason I came back to Magic is because Dragonlance got canceled by Wizards of the Coast and D&D. And I also had a child, which meant I didn't have the many, many hours it takes to run an RPG anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And, but before that, I was 100% hardcore into like playing every random ass tabletop game I could play. And yeah, so what have you what have you done? What are your
Oh
games? What are
goodness.
your systems? Like where did you find
So
how did you start getting into indie RPGs?
So I started in D&D like a lot of folks did, but I mentioned before that I came into design especially later. I started with D&D third edition right when it came out. I was
Mm,
in college for the first time, and met friends at the computer store I worked at. Played D&D 3E, dropped Magic actually after college because I bought too many D&D third edition splat books. I had to pick between D&D and Magic, and I chose D&D at the time. Um, Fast forward to D&D 4th edition. I started my first game, started going to conventions because I listened to the Penny Arcade D&D, the first Acquisitions Incorporated stuff, like way back.
yeah.
And started finding other actual play stuff. Found a convention in Kansas City, met a bunch of great people, discovered indie RPGs at Origins in 2010, and that was it for me. I designed my first game, which was called School Days, in 2012. It kickstarted that year, won an Emmy the next year for a Judge's Spotlight,
Nice.
which is pretty cool. Yeah. And then I've done,
For those of
uh,
you guys who don't know,
yeah.
Ennies are the awards that are given out at Gen Con every year for like game design and the best games and stuff that came out. It came from EN World, which is the huge
Mhm.
forum of like nerds that I lived in for a long time, which was of course Eric Noah's D&D page when third edition was coming out and we were getting all of our leaks and stuff. Uh God, man, I have
Yeah. It's,
that's
it's some,
awesome. That is
some well,
quite the
it's
honor,
some
man.
well trodden ground, huh?
Yeah.
Then I released. I've kickstarted. I think I've done 14 Kickstarters over the years.
Damn.
That's primarily how I have done. I have a hard time stopping, and I have a hard time finishing things well. Like I currently have uh, two Kickstarters that I have to completely finish fulfilling. One of which I have to like get signed copies to backers, and the other of which I have to finish writing the game and put it together. But yeah, so
See,
I
having any successful Kickstarter is actually kind of insane. Having
yeah,
multiples is amazing.
it's really interesting because it turned me into a real jack of all trades kind of person because I was doing big projects and big projects. The game I was best known for a while was called Iron Edda: War of Metal and Bone,
Mm.
which is a Fate Core based game of Ragnarok featuring mechs. So Ragnarok happens, it's dwarves rising up out of the ground in big metal monstrosities, and humanity deciding to fight back by bonding themselves to the bones of dead giants. And it turns into Norse Pacific Rim. Uh, yeah, pardon me, I almost dropped one there. It rips. It's really cool. But like it's not an easy concept to pitch to people to take their precious game time, to do a group and play it as a campaign. And Fate is a system that is brilliant. We both love it for storytelling, but it also it uses different dice. It uses dice in very swingy ways, so you can really end up rolling poorly more often than you might want to, and or
Mm.
succeeding at a cost more than you are comfortable. Like, can I just be awesome? Why is there always a string attached, right? um and so I moved on from Fate. Powered by the Apocalypse was coming out. Evil Hat threw in with Blades in the Dark and started going that direction, because that was a more digestible form of a lot of the same ideas. Although Blades in the Dark is rooted in Powered by the Apocalypse, not Fate Core. But
The
then
one thing you realize with
yeah,
indie RPGs is just how weirdly incestuous and everything is, because like people always because like the whole core of indie RPGs is that you are basically you look at a game and you're like, huh, that's a cool idea. What if I did a better version of that? Or oh my god, if I tinker with it in this way, it can do this other cool thing. And then you end up with
yep.
this very long chain of like people who are referencing other people who are referencing other people, and you're like, what is the original source? I don't know, someone's weird GURPS game from 1982 or something. And it's just like, I mean,
Uh,
it,
yeah. So,
yeah.
so I mean, it's wild, right? Like that's the thing that I ended up finding out and sort of leaning into after my quote unquote big game era, is I just started making stuff that I like. I tossed you the link to my itch page there in the chat because what I ended up doing, like the first games in that list, down at the bottom are the ones that I worked with big teams. I worked with other people to do the art and the layout and everything. And then I started doing all of it myself. And most of my catalog right now is small games that I have written and edited and played. Some I have never played. Some I just wrote and put it out because that was the era of RPGs that we were at, and I didn't
Yeah.
have ready access to a group of people to play. And
God,
now
I
I'm
miss
kind
those
of, yeah.
days.
Yeah. Now I'm kind of leaning back into my big game era. Like I've got bigger plans and I want to do more fully produced stuff because I've also been a stay-at-home parent for the last 4 years. And so that kind of has tanked a lot of things in different ways. It's a lot of work because it started as one and now there are two and there's only one of me. So
I mean, so here's the thing is like indie RPGs end up like when I started in RPGs, when I was really getting hard into it at the tail end of the 90s and right into early 2000s and stuff, there was this it was like the second renaissance of like RPGs and stuff after like the original golden age of the 70s. And like, you know, the big RPGs at the time were like GURPS, D&D, and like Rifts and Werewolf, obviously, or not Werewolf, but Vampire,
all the
whatever,
World of
White
Darkness
Wolf
stuff.
games, right? And so like, but there was this whole era of people who were making these like, you know, manila envelopes with like staples folded together, your handwritten like little pamphlets of RPGs, 1-pagers or 5-pagers or 12 pages, whatever. And it was just like, it was so weird. They were all meant for like, this is a game made for like you to introspectively like delve into what your life is, or here's like a 4-hour dungeon crawl, but you guys are all like, you know, the actual dungeon being crawled or something. It's all weird hippie stuff. And it was so cool and it was so innovative. And we lived in an era where it was like easy to be able to get away with making that sort of thing without like, and now obviously with things like itch and like itch.io and like easy publication and stuff, it's very easy to write stuff and just throw it out there and see what happens. And that's really sick, man.
Yeah, that's a lot of what my more recent career has been. It's funny that you mentioned a game about dungeon delving and being the actual dungeon because I have a solo journaling game called You Are the Dungeon.
Literally,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I had no idea. I haven't actually looked at any of your stuff. But, but that's kind of exactly the sort of crap.
It's a sort of thing, except this one is you build the dungeon as adventurers come in. So you start with a little like a one-room seed and people go in and horrible things happen to them and then they leave. And then you have an era where, because you're a semi-sentient dungeon, why not? You expand, right? You grow, because it's an homage to those old school Caves of Chaos-esque dungeons, right? Where you'd look at this map and you would wonder, okay, well, what was this originally? And second of all, why are there goblins over here and kobolds over here, and there's this one green slime back this way, right? There was a haphazardness to the ecology of the dungeon, and this game lets you sort of represent how that happens, and you can then, like, if you play multiple rounds of it, you'll end up with a dungeon. You'll know what's in the dungeon and where people died and what happened, and then you could like drop that into, well, nowadays you could drop it into a Daggerheart game, right? Or Pathfinder 2e or D&D 2024 or whatever, right? Like it's a place to use.
As an entire aside, I will never be able to get into actual plays or let's plays or things like that because I'm from an era where I want to play, and if I'm watching somebody else play, it's because I wasn't invited, and that just doesn't feel good to me. And I'm like, I don't want to watch you play D&D. I want to either do it or like either be part of it or not at all. Like that's just not a vibe I can get. I mean, mind you, I say this as like freaking Critical Role is selling out Madison Square Garden to play D&D in of all goddamn. Okay, man. Okay, you know what?
But the
I'm
thing
just
is
old. I get it.
Oh no! I mean, like you said, we're about the same age. I'm 45 this fall, right? And it's just different tastes. You are from what I understand about you, and I've listened to your voice for years now. I've seen you on shows. You're a very hands-on, involved. You want to be in the gristle of the thing while you're doing it, right? And I don't always want that. Sometimes I just want the spectacle and the show. And I want to think about what I could be doing for my next thing. So listening to other people play games, because I primarily listen. I don't really watch a lot of video actual play. it lets those stories unfurl in my mind. It lets me hear how other GMs do things. It lets me get examples of, how to comport yourself at the table and how to run a really good game. And then later, as an audio editor, because I started producing these things, how do I edit the show to sound the way that I want it? How do I lay the background music in? What are the cues? Am I cutting ums and uhs? How's the pacing of this moment? All that, like, it's just, I don't know. It all really spoke to me because it's been my job for a while now to do actual play stuff. Because of course I can't just do one thing and be a stay-at-home parent. I have to try and do all the things.
Believe me, I understand. But my hustle is not like editing other people's shows. It's just I'm going to spin up another show and another show, and then my wife's like, "Hey, buddy, maybe let's remember you actually have a life that you have to live and can't do all this all the time." But yeah, it just, I don't know. It's like I respect it, and I think it's super cool, and I love that people are getting into the game that way.
Yeah.
But it's also like the same with me and like live action commander shows and stuff. Sometimes I'll watch it because I'm like, oh, look at that interesting player or whatever. But when we're at like a MagicCon and game nights is on or something, I'm gonna be like, you know what, this is not for me. This is for all of you guys, and that's fine. I'm just here to clap and celebrate with you, but I don't need to sit and watch them play Commander. I've played Commander. I understand.
With self-awareness comes wisdom, right? You know what you like and what you don't, and because there's no point in trying to force yourself to fit into someone else's mold, because you'll just end up unhappy, right? I was a pick me for a lot of years because I didn't have a firm center to myself to know what I liked and what I didn't. I didn't know how to even analyze my own tastes, right? So I just said yes to a lot of things that turned out to not always be the thing I wanted to do. And I've figured out how not to do that to a large degree. It's nice to know what I want and what I want to do, and not just be like, oh, popular person is doing blah, I must do blah also. Because that tended to be an impulse that I leaned into sometimes, because it's tempting to be noticed, right? It's nice to be it's nice to feel wanted, if that's not what you always
human
get.
Nature, so, right? Like that is obviously
exactly.
that is our ego needing to be like assuaged, that we exist and that other people acknowledge our existence. That's also part of why, like, when you look at like the stories of enlightenment and like of the gurus and sages who are become aesthetics and run away, that like the ultimate goal is not to need to be noticed anymore. Is to just be like, I don't care if you pay attention to me or not. I exist within the confines of space until I don't, and then I deal with whatever I'm doing. But that's not for most of us. That is like the end goal, not the where we are now. And like, because I know one of my problems on a personal level is that all of my friends and all of my colleagues are the most hyper successful people in our field, right?
Yep.
And so like,
I know this feeling.
So like when your buddies are like, Ristic Studies and the professor and whatever, and you're like, oh, his YouTube views got 1 million people or something, or whatever it is. And I'm like, or I remember when I started this podcast and I was comparing my numbers to Prof, and he turned to me, he's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why are you, what makes you think this is even like, and he didn't say, it was not meant to be like an egotistical thing for him or anything. It was more like, hey, dude, like, I've had years and years of this and my audience is gigantic. You will get there, but like, don't beat yourself up because you're not starting at the finish line.
Yeah. That's a tough one also, because it not only is it very tempting to compare ourselves, but when you look at the landscape of doing, just say, a podcast, the bar for what is acceptable, like what's your entry level good sounding podcast, what will people listen to at a base level, I heard people talking about this. The boss of One Shot, James D'Amato, has a podcast called the Ultimate RPG Podcast. He had Taylor Moore from Fortunate Horse, another big AP production company, on, and they were talking about how, like, it used to be, we want clean audio, right? We want to have a mic per person, and we want everyone to sound fine. Like, we want, that's the floor. That's what we need to get people to listen to us. Nowadays, the bar is higher, right? You have to do more in basic production to find a new audience because people's expectations are higher, and there's just more. The quality has risen, and so it's harder to put out something that people are going to listen to, because it's easier to put things out than ever, and easier to sound good than it ever has been. But that means that the landscape is also more crowded than ever. Anyone who wants to, with some effort and some technical know-how and a few social connections, you too can spin up a Commander show that 4 people will watch.
Yeah.
So you have to want to do it, right? It has to be a thing that you want to do because you want to do it, not because you have some type of expectation of results from doing it.
Yes.
Which is why the Exhibitionists work, right? Because Bugs and I just want to do the show, and it's so much fun.
Yes. That is 100% it. Because like this show, for instance, I know exactly what the high upper limit of this show is, because there's only X amount of Magic players in the world who listen to podcasts, and there's only like a subset of that X that want to listen to interview podcasts with other people, and then a subset that's actually going to listen all the way through. And I know what that numbers cap is, more or less. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I know where my ambition is. I do this show not because it's going to be gangbusters or whatever. It's because I really enjoy it and it's fun and people like listening to it. And the folks who like listening to, like, not everything has to be a capitalism. Not everything has to be a number that grows continuously. Some things can be like, hey, guess what? This exists for this and I enjoy it for this. And I'm going to do it for this. But talk to me about your show with Bugs. What do you guys actually do?
Yeah, so the Exhibitionists is a Commander show that is focused around and dedicated to Bracket 1 Commander. Because when Wizards came out with the initial Bracket 1 through 4 ranking, they had clever little names for all of the ranks that nobody uses. But that day, or right around that time, Bugs was just joking around on Blue Sky, as she is wont to do, because that is her personality, is joking around on the internet. And she just asked out loud, what does one have to do to become on the format panel for Bracket 1 Commander? And so I replied, it was fun and funny, and then I DM'd her and I said, hey, if you're like even halfway serious about this, I work for a podcast network. We have a Twitch channel that we want to do stuff with, and I would love to play Bracket 1 Commander on a regular basis. So she took notice, we started talking, and it was like, we've known each other forever. Like, it was an instant chemistry. Everything was very easy to get all of this set up. So basically what we try to do is we try to get, we do 2 episodes a month. So every other Thursday, we try to get the same pair of guests for both episodes in the month. So that way, when you have a weekly show, it can be hard to get to know people and personalities and things like that, because there is a parasocial aspect to people enjoying, watching stuff online. So we're like, okay, if we get the same people on for the first 2 episodes, then there's at least like a mini arc, right? The second episode has like history from the first episode, like, oh, I'm going to stop you because you did blah, 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 right? That sort of thing. But then we switch it up the next month. The name is obviously an innuendo, because we want to see your decks, or we want people to check out our decks. And we have signature decks that we've started playing on the show. Bugs is the bunny. It is, oh gosh, I can't remember his name. The blue-white bunny that is a group hug deck. You can tap him and Quain, that's the one. Yeah, so that's her bunny hug deck that slowly builds a prison of solitude as you play until you can't interact with her board state, and then she just beats you to death with a bunch of bungies. I played a few different ones. The one I like the most right now is my Rucaramel Typal deck. It's so Rucaramel is that 5-color legend who came out in it was the Sliver Precon that came out for Modern Horizons 3, I think.
Oh, the biologist.
Anyway. Yeah, the biologist.
Biologist for Wooburg, 3/3. As she enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Slivers and non-token creatures you control are the chosen type, in addition to other creatures. This is true for creatures you control and creature cards that you haven't cast yet. And 3 and tap create a Sliver.
Yeah, so she's a conspiracy on a stick, right? But what I do is I've got it built so I have like 3 distinct large types of creatures in the deck. I've got goblins and vampires and angels. as the main types, and then a handful of other little sprinkles in. Like I've got Captain Degathright in there for horrors, sludge monsters
Jesus.
in there. But basically, what I do is I just start playing things out, and whatever type I have a density of, that's what I name when I land Caramel. So everything becomes that type, and all of my your goblins get blah spells affect all my cards. But then I have a small blink package in there. So if I draw into Muxus Goblin Grandee and I've got a bunch of angels, then I blink Caramel and change her type to goblins, and then I cast Muxus, and every creature that I flip off the top of the deck is a goblin this time. Or I use the world tree and turn everything into a god and find all of my creatures. And it's janky. There's no like combo lines to find that stuff. It just hangs together or it doesn't. And that's the kind of stuff that we like to do on the show, right? You can still play powerful cards. You can play interesting and fun cards. You can make suboptimal deck building choices because it doesn't matter. It's just casual commander. Please God, have fun playing the game. And we try to keep the tone extremely jokey and lighthearted. And it's been a blast. We've had a really great time playing.
So let's talk about what do you think a bracket 1 deck is? Because one of these weird problems of this bracket system is that, yeah, they've got kind of like guidelines for what it means, but the nebulous ones are like what bracket 1 and what bracket 4 are. And it's like, what is a theme? Like, how do you build a theme deck that is just goofy little guys or whatever, that's not also just somehow going to optimize itself into like killing you, right?
It's actually really funny. If I had thought ahead a little bit, I would have rigged my overhead camera so I could switch inputs real quick. And I actually just built, while we were doing pregame, I finished entering into Moxfield a new deck that I just threw together this afternoon. So I can explain exactly my philosophy. I'll be very brief. It's a Henzi Toolbox Tory, right? That's the card I pulled up in our sound check.
Yes.
Jund, 3/3, Devil Rogue. Each creature spell you cast with mana value 4 or greater has Blitz. The Blitz cost is equal to its mana cost. So you can Blitz it in for its mana cost, and then when it dies, you draw a card, and you sacrifice it at the end of the turn. And then Henzi reduces Blitz cost by 1 for every time you've cast him. Yes. So I paired that with Umori the Collector as a companion.
So that's Umori, the one that you pick a card type and it gets discounted?
And it gets discounted by 1, and every card in the deck is a creature. So I'm Jund Oops all creatures. And what I've done is it's just a variety. It's all just stuff that I had on or around my desk. Like it's a desk pile, because that's what you
stuff
can do.
On my desk.deck is one of my favorite things in the world.
It is so easy to build a bracket 1 deck when you do that, because you just have to forget to put in what a lot of people consider deck staples. It's not that you're not adding card draw or removal or all the components to make your deck function, but maybe you're not putting Soul Ring in the deck. Maybe you don't put an Arcane Signet. Maybe you leave the talismans out and you put signets in instead. Maybe you're going with a really suboptimal land base because you think Lava Tubes rules.
No one thinks Lava Tubes rules.
Do you want to see the Ice Age Lava Tubes I just put in this deck?
Oh, for Christ's sake.
It's right there.
That card is awful. The art was bad. The card was bad. And even when Ice Age was new and cool, that was still a terrible card.
Yes.
God, depletion counter lands are just so... It's like I've got this scale for like best art to worst card, kind of like the what do you call it? The delta between best art and worst card. And my litmus test for that are the John Avon lands from Kamigawa, which are basically depletion lands with God tier art.
Yeah.
And it's just why? These cards...
It does. But it also is still a land. It still helps you do the thing. And you're not looking for consistency, right? You're just looking to have cards that you enjoy playing. At least that's my take on it, right? So I recently finished a sealed deck league. I had a Golgari deck sitting on my desk. So like I grabbed my Aganosaur Rex, my Laced Prowler, Sidisi Regent of the Mire, Avenger of the Fallen, Achetic Emerald Radian, like Aether Drift Dragonstorm cards, because that's the sets we were playing. And they're all big mana cards that have something interesting that happens when they enter. And because Henzi's going to let me blitz them in, right? And I can reduce the costs on that. So I've also got, mana dorks and other utility creatures. So I get some treasure tokens incidentally and things like that. But there's just fun and funny cards to play out. Like I like getting around restrictions a little bit. So Liliana Heretical Healer is in the deck because she's a creature, right? But she's also the Planeswalker. It just, I don't know. It's a home for it. It feels like the kind of commander that you're promised when you're told what commander is, right? When someone is buying cards, standard is rotated, right? There, and suddenly, oh God, I can't play my deck anymore, but I really like these cards. And someone says, oh, you've got a lot of bulk there. We could just play commander, right? Throw a pile of 100 cards together. And it's not as, I guess it's not as casually stated these days anymore because commander is like emblazoned on everything that WotC does. Like it's the cash cow of the thing for, I will just say for worse, I believe. Like I
look, that is a challenge for us because like there's this weird idea. Like for one thing, when we were all on the rules committee and everything, the idea was, yeah, look, commander is supposed to be the everyman's format. It's supposed to be the counter to all the official things. It is just a fan made format for you to be able to play your favorite 12 drops or whatever it is, you know. But the problem is we made something that was really popular and really good that everybody really likes. And Wizard of the Coast is not like it. Real talk. There's no reason for them to sit there and look at their player base and say like, hey, we have 100 million people who are playing this kind of game that is outside of our, you know, research bounds, as in like they don't have DCI numbers, they don't play at FNM, they don't play at tournaments, but they're buying these cards and doing something with them.
We got to get in on this.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, Wizards does a lot of things up and down, and I'm not going to be defending everything they do, but here, if I ran a business and I sold apples and everybody was coming in and using these apples to make apple pies and they were all doing the same apple pie, and I'm like, why don't I just make the apple pie and then you guys will come and buy the apple pie?
Or you can buy my pre-made crust.
Yeah,
and you can swap in your own ingredients. Yeah, and
right. No, like it's just like, hey, look, you guys are using this product I'm making to do this thing. Why should I not cater to you because you want it? You obviously want it.
Yeah,
it's not to the benefit of the game. No, I mean, is it?
Right. Not really. I mean, and I completely agree with you. It makes it from a business standpoint, it makes no sense to not be there and be in on this.
People want. Why would you force them to play standard if they want to play commander? It's like
it's just that there are so many knock-on effects. We both know it. That's not the point of this conversation.
No,
it's just,
exactly. It's
like,
not.
But that circles back to why I love Bracket 1 because I just picked up a bunch of big dummies off my desk and said, yes, you big dummies are going to go in this deck because modern card design is so pushed that like I've got Web Strike Elite, right? It's all creature deck. There's no enchantment removal. Well, if you cycle Web Strike Elite and pay X, then you can destroy target enchantment or artifact with mana value X, right? And you're playing against other Bracket 1 decks. So having incidental single target removal available, very helpful, very nice. Web Strike Elite is a green for a 3/3 with reach. It's from Aether Drift and it has cycling for green X. You can discard it, draw a card, and when you cycle, you can destroy one target artifact or enchantment with mana value X. So like that's in there and that's really cool. And then I have things like I pulled this one because I think you will really appreciate it. Homura Human Ascendant from Kamigawa. It's a 6 mana, 4 and 2 red for a 4/4 can't block. When it's put into a graveyard from play, return it flipped, and it comes back as an enchantment called Homura's Essence. Creatures you control get +2/+2, have flying and fire breathing.
Yeah.
So you blitz this guy in for 4, and he dies, and he immediately comes back, and all of your like it's silly. It's not a good card, but boy, it is going to be a lot of fun in this deck. You know, and that's the whole idea because everyone else is playing with the same vibes. I think the biggest mismatch that happens in a commander game is it's what the brackets are trying to address. It's when everyone in the pod is not there for the same type of game experience, right? And that's why the exhibitionists work because we very clearly on the tin say, no, please. These are stupid decks, and we are going to do dumb things with them. Please come play with us. And people are into that because it's not sweaty commander, but it's still good Magic, right?
I do question that. There is a way to make super sweaty games. Like there was I was told by a WotC employee once, build like a like build like a Johnny, play like a Spike type of thing, or build like a Timmy, play like a Spike. Build your decks to be like goofy, power limited decks, and then just play your heart out to be like having the best time it's like Chandelar tier, right? Like our cards might be gray ogres, but by God, I'm going to stick like a regeneration on this thing, and I'm going to try to kick your ass with it.
Yeah. For me, it's a similar vibe, and this may sound strange to some folks because the power levels are drastically different in terms of card quality, but it's the same vibe as playing Vintage Cube or Canadian Highlander for me, right? It is. We're still playing good Magic. We still want to do the thing. That's the point of playing Magic, is to do the thing. Now, granted, your doing the thing might be a silly idea. It might be, a Jim playing the Ozolith as a commander, which rules. By the way, total side tangent. Bugs and I have obviously talking about pods, and we have been trying to figure out how awesome would it be to have both you and Jim on the same pod for the Exhibitionists, because
that would be fun as hell.
Because we would immediately say, yes, Ozolith deck, go. That is exactly in our wheelhouse. We had a pod where someone played a Pendragon deck. Have you heard of Pendragon, the variant? Yeah. So a common creature and a legendary equipment, and it just hung out with all the rest of our decks, right? And KD Combat nearly took the pod with it. It ruled. And there's more room to do that kind of thing, because our pregame conversation is, this is bracket 1. We're all here for a good time. And within the confines of that, what can we do? And we can do a lot, it turns out.
Yeah, this is why my personal favorite way to play is Boxing League, as I say over and over again, because Boxing League is effectively, it's a bracket 1 deck. You're like forced into this hard limit. You're never going to have any of the awesome staples. That's why when you play Boxing League, don't play the Commander focus sets. Just don't do it. It's cheating. But like if you play a normal standard set Boxing League, you're going to be like, well, I'm going to be playing all this draft Jeff because this is what I got and it's in my colors. Yeah. And that is the best way to play, because it forces you to do fun. It teaches you weird interactions. It lets you have the time of your life, because you're having these great decks that are all like synergistic with each other. And you don't have to worry about like accidentally blowing somebody out of the water, because you're not going to, because it's just super sealed. Right.
Yeah, exactly. No, and it's the same kind. It's the same kind of vibe that we try to do on the show, and it's really funny. With all of the projects that I do, with everything that I continually have going on, it is a welcome relief. The Exhibitionists is never work for me to do. Right. It takes effort to schedule guests and to make sure that I run the tech side of things and all that good stuff. And you're on camera and you're still trying to play good Commander and be sociable and affable and all that good stuff. But like, it is harder than it looks. But I don't dread an Exhibitionist stream. Right. I never like look at it on my schedule and go, I have to do that tonight. Crud. Right. Because I'm just over whatever the day has been. The Exhibitionist is easy. Playing games with Bugs is super awesome, and we bring out really good performance styles in each other, and we help bring them out in our guests. Like it all works really, really well. I've been this satisfied with a creative project in a long while. It feels really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great to hear. And the thing is, I really do appreciate having people like you guys actually sit here and fight the good fight, trying to remind people that it's okay to downpower your decks and to like take the hard stuff. I mean, like, look, I'm not saying we all need to start playing with mono batteries and cameos and whatever, like garbage mana. Like, I'm not saying play bad Magic in the sense of like, oh, this isn't very fun. I'm saying play bad Magic in the sense of like, would a Spike look at your deck and say, why is this card in there? You could be doing more efficient things. That's great.
Yes.
Do that.
That's exactly it, right? I choose like lava tubes because I think it's funny, right? I'm playing in a pod, and we all agreed that that's what this is, where that I'm playing a bracket 1 deck, and I play a lava tubes. Someone is going to go, what? Right? The way you reacted, right? But they're doing it on a live stream or around. I just pasted the deck link for that deck that I just put together, so you can just sort of see what's going on with it. But like, there's some good cards in the deck and cards that do a lot of work because again, I still want the game to end, but like I can have a lot of fun along the way, doing a lot of different things with them. Like some of the decks that I play, I mentioned in the notes that we talked about ahead of time. I've got a whole group of decks that I built that are just themed around Mountain Goat songs. Because I did a short-lived show called TMG X MTG where I just made commander decks based on Mountain Goat songs. So like I've got a Squee Dubious Monarch deck that is called I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me.
Do you?
And it is built around symmetrical damage effects. So if it's an earthquake style thing, right? So if it hits you, it's also going to hit me. I might take a little bit less, but it's going to hit me too. Because it plays like a drunken 17-year-old escaping the house and going to the arcade in their dad's car, right? Like that's how the deck feels. And in a time when I was newly at home with kids and couldn't do RPG stuff because COVID lockdown had changed all of that and so many other factors were going on, I found building commander decks to be a really great creative outlet. And so I did a show about it for a little while. And I don't know, it's just it's a lot of fun. And it reminds me of why I love playing Magic because, as has been said by so many people so accurately, the cure for reading about Magic is going to play it.
Yeah.
Because reading about Magic online it's hard sometimes and it's tiresome and it's bad sometimes. It's just flat out bad. But playing Magic with the right people is just, it's the sauce. It does such a good thing.
Yeah, there's this weird dichotomy where it's like it's hard. Not everybody gets to play Magic all the time, but when you do, you're like, oh yeah, this is why I like this game because it's actually fun. It's really fun. It's super exciting, and we're just like you drain the joy out of yourself by just sitting and arguing all the time with people about what they should or shouldn't be doing with Magic. Just go play, man. Even if you can't, you're like Arena it scratches the itch, but it's not the same as sitting down and playing with people. But sometimes you're like, I go to my store and there's a jackhole there. I'm like, okay, look, I can't solve for everything.
Right.
But by and large, playing with your friends is just better than not playing with your friends.
Yeah, exactly. And focusing on bracket 1 decks has also let me mitigate one of the things that was hard for me about Commander when I first came into it, is that like at best you're only going to win 25% of the time on average,
seriously.
right? And so if you're playing a game and you're building your deck to win and you don't, and that keeps happening, then you can start to feel bad about that, right? If there are other factors where the game isn't as good, then it starts to sort of detract from the whole thing. Building a deck that is designed to be silly and designed to do fun things around other silly decks, it mitigates a lot of that. I don't think I've won a single game on the Exhibitionists of all the pods that we've played so far, and it's awesome because I've got my OBS set up to put a picture of Nico Bellic from GTA 4, and it says "wasted when I die," and like, cool. My deck got to do a whole lot of funny stuff, and then I put Nico Bellic up, and we're all good. Like, it was fun.
Like that's the thing. Like the real thing you should be thinking about is that, hey, if I'm winning more than like 1/4 of the games I'm playing, you got to sit there and actually think like, am I too strong for the group I'm in, or is there some way that I can change the way I approach the game such that I balance it out more? Because like it's weird and people get mad at me when I say this, but this is what Commander is about. It's not about winning. Is cool. It's fun to beat your friends. I'm not saying it's not cool or fun. I'm just saying that shouldn't be like the driving focus.
Yeah.
Like that's what tournaments are for. This is not that.
Yeah, Commander's a social format, and in my group when we got back together when lockdown was just lifting, and we were all playing games together for the first time, that's when we all got back into Magic, and it was easier to do that than it was to try and plan a TTRPG session, right? I had the kiddo was 2 months old when we first got to go over to someone else's place, and I laid her on the dining table and we played Magic. Like, uh, you know, and we couldn't have done that with an RPG. I wouldn't have been able to prep. And I was usually the GM because I made games for my group, right?
Yep.
And so Magic became that outlet, and Commander specifically. And I've grown to like reconnect and love other formats. Like I pretty much exclusively play best of 3 standard on Arena when I play.
Oh
I've got
man,
brawl
I
decks,
can't be
but
bothered with sideboards. That's too much
yes,
thought.
I've got an Abzan Insidious Roots deck that was good enough to get me into Diamond, and it's just fun. I enjoy it. Again, it's not
I mean, that's fair.
meta. It loses a lot, but that's okay because I'm not playing to win necessarily. I'm playing because I like playing that deck. I'll do draft and sealed on there too. And thanks to North 100 Showdown, I love Canadian Highlander.
I love Canadian Highlander.
Oh my god, Bugs and I have done one Canlander night, and we're gonna do more as just like special one-off episodes. And we just looked up deck lists and used the Moxfield playtester.
You could probably do like bracket 1 Canlander decks.
We've talked about it, like, and that's the thing is you could.
But like half the fun of Canlander is being able to play a Mox.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's at that point in time, you're just kind of playing Singleton Pauper and like.
Yeah,
sure, you can. That would be fun and funny to do, but you could also just play Pauper. Like there's a point at which the breakdown of like morphing your format into something else is like you really can just stop and go play.
Yeah, play the thing.
It'll be fine. Like
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like with Canlander, I would like to build a Chandler style of Canlander deck where it's like you're using the power 9, but you're using the power 9 to power out like Uthden Troll.
yeah. My Crawworm loves that I have an Emerald Mox in play.
Right? Like exactly. Like guess what, dude? I mean, look, I have definitely had the start where you're like, turn 1 island soul ring into like mana vault into and then next turn it's like Mahamudi Jin. And you're like, really? You've like $150 worth of mana base there for the 3-cent card? I'm like, yeah, but it's a 5/6 and it's gonna beat you to death.
And you're on a 4-turn clock. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm like, you're going to die. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, and that's the fun of like of looking at a 20 life format, right? Like a heads up format like that, and comparing it to Commander, but like taking the same sort of ethos is. I don't know. Canlander has a lot going on for it, and I'm really happy to see that it's gaining popularity pretty much among other content creators from what I can see, but that's fine. It's fun.
It scratches the itch so much because it's like, it's very competitive. It's very powerful. It's very, very strong and crazy magic. And it's Singleton. And it's just like, we spend all of our time thinking about Commander and stuff. It's nice to have, it's like the pendulum has swung all the way back around again. Into like, we're using this hyper competitive, super powerful vintage model to get away from casual play.
Yeah, but it is also still a casual tournament format.
That's the thing. Yeah. It's a very you can play like, yeah, there's Canlander tournaments, but real talk, you're just playing vintage casually is what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Rules.
It does rule. It rules really, really hard. I think a decent number of CEDH players would probably find themselves much happier if they had a Canlander deck in their hands. And
I have stopped saying that because sometimes they get really upset and they're like,
I'll take the heat for that because I don't mean it in a negative way. If you want to play CEDH, man, go ahead and do it. But I also think that because the formats have so many similarities and because of how good it does feel to play with power, like,
dude, it is just sick.
Give it a shot. Like I think that the kind of like tight, high brain energy magic that you're looking to play in CEDH, you can definitely find in Canlander, and you miss the politicking that can so very easily detract from it being a good experience in CEDH. And because you're just going heads up, you're just 1v1ing against the person in front of you, and there's no bargaining, right? Your job is to reduce their life total to 0. And that's why you're there, and you get blown out. You shuffle up and you do it again. So great, you blew them out. You shuffle up and you do it again. And it doesn't, Commander takes a long time. Even, like
there are times when I sit there and go like, man, of all the formats I could have saddled myself with, I chose the one that is like the slowest possible one.
Yeah. But there are really good things about they're really good things about all of it, I think. And I
don't know.
I
I don't want
just
to side
think
Commander
that,
too much because
yeah.
it is my format of choice. Real
And
talk.
no, we don't play Canadian Highlander twice a month, right? We
Right.
play Commander twice a month because it accomplishes a certain thing in how it goes about performing magic, right? And that thing has its own special sauce. I think it would be beneficial to people, and I think this is a generality, like explore things that are slightly outside of the thing that you have grown so attached to and just see what else the game can do. You can apply that lesson to a whole lot of other things in life, but magic just on its own. We add how many new cards every year now with 6 standard sets? It's a buck wild amount, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the game is over 30 years old. There is so much that this game can do mechanically. We've not even come that pre-modern exists, right? There are formats that have no new cards being added and there are still new deck types being created because people find new ways old things work together. Like there's so much innovation and you can do so much with it. So check it out. If that's like, it's really, really neat. And if you broaden the base of the formats you play, you broaden the base of the people with whom you play. And that means, I don't know, maybe it's a higher likelihood of running into people who rub you the wrong way. I was about to say it's less. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But broaden your horizons. Like, it's cool. It's cool and good to learn more things.
Yeah, like real talk, Magic is, if Magic wasn't the best game and wasn't the most fun, we wouldn't be talking about it all the time. And it's just, it's hell, like that's the thing. I love every facet of Magic, almost very nearly every facet of Magic. And the parts that I don't love, I'm still going to play and have a good time because the fundamental game is fun. Like Magic is fun to play. Playing the game is fun. And when it ceases being fun, that's when you got to sit there and think like, okay, what am I doing? What should I be doing? Is there anything else I could be doing? Or maybe take a break, right? Yep. But if not, like, dude, the game rules. The game rules and it's hell fun.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, and there are a lot of other things that you can do if you are not finding that Magic is working for you. And granted, that's very easy to say in a vacuum. I know everyone's life circumstances vary wildly, and the world is on fire in special ways, so it's hard to say what people can and can't do these days.
I mean, the thing that makes Magic work is the fact that you can just shove a deck into your pocket, go and play with somebody, and the game could take 15 minutes and you can still scratch that itch, or the game could take 2 hours. But either way, it's portable, it's translatable. You can sit down with anybody in any language playing, and you all understand the fundamental rules of the game. So we can all sit and just enjoy and have fun. And there's a billion different ways to play online with people now. And I mean, like, really, I am talking to the most enfranchised of enfranchised audiences here. So, like, I don't need to sell them on Magic.
Right.
But, like, I don't know. I think the idea of, I think everybody should just have a deck that Wheeler and I like to call the rubber band deck, where you're just like, a deck you can just put around a rubber band, throw into a plastic baggie, and toss into the bottom of your backpack and just have. Like, it costs like $25 tops. And it's just full of the most grody draft chaff nonsense that your stores are very happy to get rid of. Like, one of the things that I loved about Original Brawl when it was first intended, when it was first created, was the idea that it was built to be your leftovers from your pre-releases turned into a deck that you could then play later. More people should just do that. Take the leftovers from pre-releases and just build them into a 60-card, 100-card deck and chill. You don't need to make them sick. You just need to make them fun.
I mentioned earlier I play in a sealed deck league, and we do 2 sets a season. Like this season, we skip Universes Beyond sets. So I'm very interested to find out what's going to come after Edge of Eternities, because our organizer sent a purposefully garbled message about what the second half of the season was going to contain, because we can't do Spider-Man because we skip UB. So that'll be fun. But like last season was Aether Drift and Dragonstorm. And there was an idea that someone floated that we should look back over the sets and the decks that we used in those sets and make commander decks from the stuff that we had. And like, I would be able to make a pretty sick Codis the Fangbearer deck from the stuff that I had from that. It'd be a lot of fun. So
my most recent Council of 4 deck was built entirely based on a sealed pool I played at a commander draft that I did at a command fest, where they gave us 2 like Baldur's Gate packs as the baseline, and then you drafted the rest of your deck. And I ended up drafting this sick blue-white deck full of just random crap that doesn't do anything anywhere else, and it became one of the most fun decks I have right now.
Yeah.
Like, I would have never played something like Combat Research in a commander deck otherwise, but that's the one that's basically just a curiosity that gives your legend ward and +1/+1. It turned out if you have an 08 like Council of 4 and you stick a Combat Research on it, which gives it ward 1 and turns it into a 1/9 that when it does combat damage draws a card, and you just happen to have a Rogue's Passage around, it is hilarious.
Yeah, you just send your large bottomed friends in, and collect
give
a card.
Vigilance and just start pounding people.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways,
yeah, stuff like that is extremely cool, and I think that the real thing that the reason that I said earlier that WotC making Commander product didn't do anything positive for the format, obviously bad generality, but like the idea that I'm trying to, I think, drive toward is that that kind of thing, and again, these all have positive benefits, but having sites like EDHREC where you can see what everyone else is doing with a commander can be good for inspiration, but it can lead to a homogenizing of the environment, right? Where, oh, you've got to put these staples in your deck. You've got to do this or your deck's not going to function. And like, those can be very useful guardrails when you're starting out. Lord knows I used the Command Zones deck building template from like 5 years ago when I was building my first deck, because I didn't know what to put together. How do you know how much of blah to add to a thing? But like, there comes a time where I think that needs to become less important if you're finding yourself bored with the format, right? If you build a deck and you're guaranteed that something in the neighborhood of 38 lands are going in, and then you've got a pile of 10 cards that always go into every commander deck that you put in because they're colorless and they just slot in, and this is my rock base. You know, you're going to find yourself running into similar play patterns because the cards you have left don't have room to be different. Your strategy can't do things, or you can't have multiple strategies. I love a deck that like you play it out, and how it's going to play just depends on what you draw. The pieces synergize, but in different interesting ways.
Yes.
So let your voice come out through your deck. Decks are an expression of the person. Like, go and be seen by the people you're playing with.
Yeah. You know, that's a good place to call this a day, man. Great talk. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is actually a really fun conversation. If folks want to find you or your stuff, where can they go?
So you can find me as the Other Tracy. That's TRACY, anywhere that handles are where I also am. I'm primarily on Blue Sky. You can find my games at theothertracy.itch.io. Theothertracy.com is my website. It's basically a fancy link tree right now. And you can find the Exhibitionists over on the One Shot Podcast Network Twitch and YouTube channel. So it's twitch.tv/OneShotRPG.
Awesome.
Yeah, we play every other Thursday. It's a lot of fun. You know, go buy my games, check it out. Hope you enjoyed this because I had a great time.
As always, my friends, you can find me at Gearbury Gears. Well, I mean, you used to be able to find me at Gearbury Gears. God, I don't know why I started saying that again. You can find me at Shivam Bhatt at Blue Sky. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at YouTube every Tuesday, thanks to my editor, Dan. You can also hear me on Shivam, Wheeler Love Magic, and the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.